was talking to another teacher today, and we were talking about, there's just certain ways you can do things that make your class run smoother. And when I was in college, 20-something years ago, they used to teach us these things. They called it classroom management. Okay, that was before the language of building relationships. That was before that phrase came forward to me. And there were more than one class I had. One of them was very much heavily involved in classroom management, and one was less, but they still, were like, hey, this is a thing, you need to know it. And when I'm talking about classroom management, I'm thinking of things like when the students come in the room, that is one of the most important times that you spend together. Number one, you need to be the first person in the room or at the doorway as the first person comes in. You need to be looking at the ones outside, you need to be looking at the ones inside. Number two, if the need exists, you assign seating. Always. At most of my classes, I assign seating by default. But, it is possible. I've had older kids before that were fine, but if you let them sit where they feel, that creates an entirely different environment. One, it creates a social environment. It says, I get to choose where I want to sit. I want to sit by you. I don't want to sit by you. I do want this person to be over here, but not this one. And I know this is, it turns into them turning to each other rather than to you. Okay, number two, it means that they've got a choice. All right, if you give them that choice, even in a class that's been well established with policies, procedures, and expectations for a long time, if you give them that choice, they're going to say, okay, well, I get to push this limit a little further than I have, so I guess that's what we're doing today. We're pushing limits. Let's see where the other ones go. Other things. The room needs to be set up before the students come in. The chairs need to be set up. If you have a seating chart or like labels or something with their names, that needs to be in there before they enter the room. There does not need to be transition time. If there's any way you can eliminate transition time, have the seating arrangement pre-planned. Have the materials out already. If you're going to have to pass out materials, put them in the chairs, put them on the desk before they come in, if you can. If you're going to have to pass out materials, you pass them out. You and each child interact. Not, here's a handful, take them and pass them down. Now, if you've got a class that can do that, cool. But a lot of mine can't. And if it's a class that is on the edge, they make no choices. Okay? I tell them how to enter the room. I tell them which direction to enter the room. I tell them where to put their stuff. In several of my classes, it's come in this way, turn this direction, put your stuff down by the wall, walk to your chair, bring a pencil. Okay? And they don't have any other, choices to make. There's not, am I going to interact with this friend, or, am I going to do this? Those are the things. Now, they don't have to be silent while they do that, but a lot of times they are pretty quiet because they're used to me, probably, and another thing, you need to start class quickly as you can. If you can come up with some sort of way not to take attendance at the beginning, it's so great. Standing there calling out those names, it takes forever. There's going to be at least 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 15 who, when you say their name, everybody's going to go. And they're going to go, I'm here. Oh, I'm right here. And it's some sort of way for them to interact with each other, and it's not necessary. Well, sometimes it is, but if you can avoid it, it's worth it. The classes I have right now, they don't have desks or and write against the notebook on their legs. It gives them some options, plus it gives some space. They're not touching each other. They're not able to touch each other. They're not able to talk to each other unless it's pretty loud and I'm going to hear it. So the activities you do, it needs to start as quickly as possible. Right now, I've got it to where each student has a note card. I haven't always done it this way, but it's what works right now. Every student has a note card. I check before they come in who's absent. I pull those out. And if I've got already information, this person's not going to be in your class because blank, I pull them out. Because then I put the cards in the chairs. That's your assigned seat. No questions asked. And I can check the roll like that. Because as soon as they're seated, I can stand in front of them and just look at them. And see if there's, a gap in the row. Okay, because if it's student chair, student chair, student chair. If it's student chair, 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 student, that's obvious. But also there should be a note card in their seat. So I can even just walk over there and pick it up and go, oh, where's so-and-so? The less talking I can do and addressing the whole class, that's good as well. Okay, these two classes I'm talking about in particular, we work with a booklet and a Chromebook at the moment. So when they come in, they have their note card in their chair. The Chromebook is in their chair. Their booklet is in their chair. They walk in, put their stuff down next to the wall. They bring their phone, because that is our policy at the moment. They bring their phone to their chair where their card is. They pick up the card, and they take the card and the phone and put it in those pocket things, like teachers used to store calculators. I guess they still do. And that way, if they leave it and there's a phone there, I can be like, oh, well, this belongs to so-and-so because their card's with it, if they do it correctly. And if they don't have a phone, they're still supposed to put it in the pocket just to, one, acknowledge that, yes, this is my chair, and two, it is my everyday reminder to them to say, do you have a phone? You need to go put it up right now. Like, if they've just gotten it back from another teacher, it's probably still in their hand. They should just go and put it up. But every day, I'm going to give them a little reminder. Go put that thing up. And I feel like it gives a lot of them a little bit of assurance that they're more likely to get their own phone back. Now, if it's a class that has an issue with it, I will stand there at the end of class and I will hand out the phones because their name's with it. I can tell who it is and I give them out. I don't let them get them themselves because sometimes, it's happy, fun, silly time and ha, I've got your phone. Hey, who got my, and it turns into keep away. And I don't really appreciate that. I don't like the environment that creates. Let's see, what's some other good stuff? You need to be busy the whole time. Everybody needs to have something to do. If everybody is done with their work, let's just say they are. I don't tell anybody that. I don't say, hey, is anybody still working? Because if I had not said that and just let them go, and they were, they got done with their work, they got out something else, they were studying vocabulary, they were doing their math homework, they're not noticing if anybody else is finished or not. They're just sitting there being quiet, which is what they were supposed to be doing anyway. But if I start up that conversation, it turns into, oh, let's all interact with each other. Another phrase that has been helpful to me recently is, we're not interacting with our neighbors. The phrase is often, don't talk. Don't talk. I don't want them to talk to me. I don't want them to blurt out questions. I don't want them to ask questions of each other. I don't want words coming out of mouths at certain points. So what else? When we leave, today I had to watch a bunch of students who are not my students. A bunch of them, which is not awesome at the end of the school year, and you don't have anything to do with them. You're just sitting. So the first 2 or 3 minutes is extremely important. I had the cards out. I had the materials in the chair. Like, and they've been in there with me 4 or 5 times. Okay. Now, there was 2 or 3 students who were like, it's about to be time to be a smart butt. And I said, excuse me? Oh, what? I said, did you have a question for me? And they didn't know what to say. I knew they didn't have a question for me. They didn't have a question for me. They were talking to so-and-so about the whatever he just dropped. You know, it was... and then I did have to call a roll, kind of, because I don't know these students. I don't know their names. I had to see if they were there or not. There was a couple that when I called their name, they said, yeah, I'm here. And then looked around and grinned. And I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, I just said I was here. I was like, why are you looking around grinning? Or are you interacting with your neighbors? Are you doing a trick? Let me know. And if there is something kind of like it's not really something you're going to call home about, but if it's something that they're trying to start a little bit of disruption, but they're not really brave enough to really do something, if you nip it in the bud immediately and do it harshly enough to where it gets their attention, you probably won't have to keep fighting that battle the whole time. It's like, you know, when you build a fence around your yard, you let the dog out. You have this gigantic yard. What's the dog do? Goes to the fence and goes around the fence. And, you know, they'll wear the grass out next to the fence to see if they can get out. All kinds of animals will do that. If they will finally accept, I can't get out, I'm here, this is what's going on, then they're going to be able to relax and say, oh, okay, well, let's look and see what's going on over here. Do I have any toys? Is there a squirrel I can catch? You know, instead of focusing on what's the limits, what are my boundaries, what can I do, what can I do, then they turn to, all right, I give up. And no, I don't want them to give up, but I want them to give up on testing me. I want them to know quickly. Now, some of the educational theory I studied was also about punishment, okay, and reinforcing behavior, okay, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. Contrary to the way some people understand it, those are both reinforcement. Reinforcement is, hey, that was a good behavior. Let's keep doing that. Oh, I'm so glad that you guys came in quietly today, la-di-da-da-da, to reinforce that behavior and say, look, I saw that effort and I appreciate it. Now, sometimes that can backfire, especially in like middle school. They don't want you to like what they're doing because that's not cool. But negative reinforcement, that is when you're giving a, you know, like negative consequence to reinforce the behavior. It's possible. And I forget what the other thing is called, and I could never remember. It's not reinforcement, it's unreinforcement. There's positive and negative reinforcement. I graduated with a master's in 2004. I don't remember what it's called. Punishment or negative correction, I don't know, whatever it is, it's not going to be effective unless it absolutely makes the behavior stop immediately. If it doesn't make the behavior stop immediately, you're wasting your time. All right, so that is some of my classroom management strategies. Now, related with all of that, it should be obvious who is the teacher and who is the student. Okay? Now, I don't seek out to be unkind to students at all, ever. That's one of the reasons I became a teacher, is because I hated school so much. Because I was there doing what I was supposed to, but yet I had to sit there and listen to somebody hollering at 3 kids. You know, there's 30 of us in there. And we was all getting screamed at. Like, what is this? And people don't always see that as collective punishment, but it is. it's just like when you send out an email to everybody, but not everybody was the one doing it. Like, address it immediately with the perpetrator. That classroom management view of it, people shy away from it sometimes because they feel like they're going to be mean, or they feel like they're going to be domineering. And there are those people out there. Some of them have good classroom management, and some of them don't. But one thing that really stuck with me student teaching was, I was huffing it. I was asking everybody everything, taking all the notes. And every day I was like, I've got to get better at this. I've got to get better at this, because I could tell I wasn't good at it. I wanted my money back from the university because I didn't feel like I learned anything. And I had 3 teachers in the room because it's band. So one of them said, one of your students, because they just threw me in the room with the second band and said good luck, because it was 2003 and nobody was checking. So I had a full semester of my own class of second band, okay, and I had to create the environment. I had to build the whole thing, which is not cute. And one of the students allegedly told one of the directors, I think Miss really tries to do a good job and she knows a lot of stuff, but I sure wish she'd make everybody be quiet. And that really stuck with me. And I was like, well, of course I want them to be quiet. And she said, well, you are just going to have to make them know that you are not going to go on until it's quiet. And I was like, well, how long am I going to wait? So there's some fine detail with that. So when that teacher told me that's what that student has said, this was a good student. She was in there doing what she was supposed to do. She was doing a good job. And she was the one who was not having a good time. Well, now, there's always going to be somebody who's mad at you. All right? If you're in a position of leadership of any kind, somebody's going to be mad. Nobody's going to be able to make decisions that everyone agrees with. So it may as well be the right people who are mad. It may as well be the people who are not doing what they're supposed to. It may as well be the people who haven't listened, haven't followed through, haven't been in attendance, they haven't got the information. They need to be the ones who are ill about what's going on, not the people who are doing what we're supposed to. All right, there are many students, many people in general, who are long-suffering because they follow instructions and do what they're supposed to do. All right, well, what's your reward for doing that? Well, staying out of trouble. But also, if you start to see that people who are not taking care of their business, if you start to see that it doesn't matter that they're not taking care of their business, then people start to say, well, why am I out here putting myself out, turning myself inside out, when this person doesn't do it and it doesn't matter? So you end up with morale issues, and then on top of that, you don't solve the behavior problem or whatever problem it is. Okay, so you're gonna make somebody mad. It needs to be the right people. So now, then there's lots of layers of why those people are not doing what they're supposed to. Sometimes you get kids who will be testing you because they want to know if you're going to take care of them or if they're going to have to take care of themselves. And I that would have never occurred to me. But I read this book, Lord, I don't know when, right when I was out of college. What was it called? Gosh, it could probably never be published today, but it was like Teaching Black Students White Middle Class Teachers. I think that was the title of it. But that was one of the things they talked about. And of course, this is not necessarily a race issue. This is a socioeconomic issue. This is a environment issue. It's a regional issue. It's family. It's all kinds of stuff. if a child knows that somebody at home is going to take care of them, if they know that when grandma's there, their older brother is not going to smack them around, then when that person is there, they know that they're going to be taken care of. But if they know that as soon as grandma leaves, all bets are off, nobody's going to take care of this for you, you're going to have to take care of yourself. Well, they don't know. Okay, if you've got a kid in there with some kind of easy target kind of thing to get made fun of, you know, they got a physical thing, they've got a speech issue, just anything. Sometimes those are going to be the kids that give you trouble, because they know that if this is a free-for-all, they're about to get it, and they better establish that dominance over those other students, or it's going to be a big problem with their, you know, immediate future. Now, is that a good idea? No, but I understand it. It doesn't make it okay. And those are the kids that in that first 2-3 minutes of class, they're pushing you and they're grinning at everybody, and they're the ones that when you break it and you say, "What do you got to say to me? I didn't hear you. Pardon me?" And they go on. They know everybody's going to be taken care of. You let me find out you've been messing with somebody. You let me find out. I also have that attitude. I am not a belligerent person. I'm not an aggressive, like I'm beat somebody up person. Now, I'm assertive, and I am aggressive in the type of description that means with energy. I had a kid one day, he was terrorizing the school, and every teacher's just like, this kid. You know, ISD all the time, suspended all the time. Went to alternative, came back, blah, blah, blah. And I forget what it was. He came in there, and I told him to move seats or something. And I said, "You're going to sit down, and you're going to sit down right there. End of it." And if that kid had come up at me and punched me, it would have been the same energy I was giving him. Was there any physical interaction at all? No, but I would have been ready for it. I have had some female teachers contact me and say, "How do you control them big old boys?" I'm 5'1.5". I have my students sit down all the time, and I stand up, and they'll start standing up and they go, "Oh my gosh, how short are you?" But they have no idea until they're up next to me. And this one particular lady said something to me, and she's like, "How do you get those big old boys to just do what you tell them to? You know, the coaches, they got those loud voices, and the boys just do what they say." And I said, "Well, the coaches can't hit them any harder than you can. Nobody punching anybody. It is an attitude, okay? That's what I call building a relationship. To me, building a relationship in the educational setting is about all of us understanding who we are not, and what we're about to do. When that phraseology came into popularity in my area, at least, it was explained to me that if my students didn't like me, I was wrong. Okay? There is not going to be one teacher out in the world that every single child likes. Okay? So we need to get rid of that mess. Now, should you be belligerent and like mess with them and torture them? Well, no. But being the manager of the classroom, you would not be needed if everybody just did what they were supposed to. You're not going to be friends with everybody. How you going to be friends with an 11-year-old, you know? Like, I like a lot of my students, and I really think, like, wow, look at this kid. I know their parents and brothers and sisters and this and that and the other, and they're dealing with this, and I have a lot of respect for them. But, you know, we're not best friends. That building relationship thing needs a rebrand.